Hey everybody, I'd like to welcome you back to my kitchen table. Now today I'm going to concentrate on the Fender Stratocaster, changing the strings. It's a little different from the Gibson Les Paul that I did before, because on the Stratocaster you can set up your tremolo so it floats, the way that mine is right here. I know some people don't do that, they let it sit flat against the body. But the reason I like mine to float is because you don't hear it knocking against the wood every time it comes back. So this presents a problem. When you remove the strings, this is going to pull itself all the way down against the body. And then when you put the new strings on and tune the guitar, it's going to create problems because you'll get each string in tune, and by the time you get to the last string, the first one's going to be out of tune. I mean, way out of tune, and each one progressively. And you can keep going for probably 15 minutes until you finally get the thing to stay in tune when it pulls the bridge back up to where it's supposed to be. So my solution to that is you can get something like old credit cards, or in my case I got old medical cards here for my insurance, and stick them under there. That'll hold the bridge in place while you take the strings off. Okay, now this guitar has the old style vintage Kluson tuners, which have this slot, and then there's a hole down inside of the slot. You can see that pretty good there. Now, a lot of people, this has been a mystery, especially when you're first starting out playing guitar. You get one of these, it's, what in the world do you do with the string? How do you put a string in there? Well, I'll get to that. First we got to get the rest of the strings off. When you take the strings out, you'll end up with these curly cues like this. Again, as I said in the other video, cut them suckers off. It'll make it a lot easier to get the strings out of the guitar. Now here's a problem you can run into. Sometimes these strings get stuck. The ball end actually gets wedged into the hole there, and you can't get them out. So what I like to do is either keep a small Allen wrench with me, or you can do this. You take one of your old strings, one that's fairly decent gauge and stiff, and stick it down in the hole and just start tapping, and eventually you'll get that thing loose, get it out of there. Okay, that one was wedged in there pretty good. I had to set the camera down so I could use both hands. I had to go get my stiff little Allen wrench to stick it down that hole there. Sometimes the string just won't do. It's always a good idea to find a small Allen wrench that you can, or see, it's anything stiff that you can stick down in that hole and push the string out. I haven't found a way to keep those little ball ends from sticking inside the holes in the, it's called the inertia block. That's that block right there on the back side. I haven't found anything to get them to stop sticking in there. If anybody has found something, let me know, because I'd love to know. Anyhow, this is also a good time, if you notice, there's a good bit of dust in there. This is a good time when the strings are off to clean these things, because it's about the only time that you can really get get all these little pieces and parts cleaned is when the strings are off. So I would suggest you go ahead and do that now and get all the dust and dirt and everything off of your neck and off the body. And then we'll proceed. Okay, now here's a real important tip. The edge of these holes down in here, if you can, take a little, like an emery board for doing fingernails, or maybe a small smooth file. Kind of smooth off the edge, not only on the bridge saddle, but on the hole below it, where the string comes through. You might have to take the saddle off to do it. But that string pulls against those two edges, and they're just like a little knife blade cutting on it. And then I have another little trick. This is a piece of wire insulation. I think it's probably about 20 gauge wire, but it's a good brand of wire. So it's got a really good, nice, flexible sheeting around it. You just strip a piece of this insulation off the wire. This is about maybe 1.5 inches long. put this on your high E string. It'll help to stop it from breaking, and it won't affect tone or anything else at all because it's before the bridge saddle. So here you can see there's my string with a little piece of insulation on it. And then I'll put this in through the back, which is a pretty straightforward thing. All your strings just come through from the back of the guitar. And then I'll show you the trick for getting these things cut to the right length to put into those old style Clouson tuners. Alright, here's another little tip for you. If you take your string, undo one little wind, undo another one. Grab that end and flick it like a fishing rod. It just unwinds the whole string for you. Instead of sitting there farting around trying to unwind the thing by hand with all the little winds, just two and flick it and you got the whole string unwound. Okay, I got all the new strings in. Now you can see that piece of insulation is well before the bridge saddle, so that won't affect the tone of the string at all. Now I'll show you a little trick for putting these things in those old style tuners. Alright, now here's what I do. I take the string. This is the low E string. Lays in that saddle. It's going to go to this tuner. So you go 1, 2. 2 tuners past that. And right about there is where you're going to cut that string. Okay, now as you can see, I've cut the string. Now you just take it, stick it in the hole, bend it over. A little hard to do with one hand. I'm holding the camera with the other hand. Hang on a second. Alright, you get it, bend it over, and then pull it. So it makes like a little crease right there. Now what you're going to do is hold it like this, put your finger on it, and then start turning the tuning machine. You want to keep pushing down, like that. So you want the windings to go down as you're turning the tuner. Alright, here we go. Now you can see as that turns around, the string is winding down on the tuner. This will keep the strings close to the headstock, which also pulls them down into the nut. So that way you get good tone, nice true ring. Because if the string was sitting up too high, it'd almost be coming out of the nut. Now it's not that easy to happen on these tuners, but as you get further down the line, they can start to almost get straight out. Particularly the third string has a habit of that. Now the next thing you want to do, just kind of get it halfway near where it's supposed to be. Push this down. Pull this up. Kind of smush it together as tight as you can get it together. If you notice, these tuners have a curve to them. So you want to try to bunch the string up into the middle of that curve as much as you can. You hear that drop down? Now you're going to do that with all of your strings. Now, when you get down here to your first strings, where there's no way you can go 2 tuners after that, there's no more tuners left. What I do is hold that string, pull it back, and you can come up 2 tuners, snip it off. Now you got the right length. About 2 tuners is about the right length for getting a decent amount of wraps around these old style tuning machines. You might want to experiment. Maybe you can come up with a little less, a little more, whatever makes you comfortable and happy. 2 has always worked for me.